Hello, Kelsey. Welcome to Power Women Wellness. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am so excited to be here. I love your podcast. You do such brilliant work, and it's so wonderful hearing from all the incredible women you have on. So I'm just thrilled to be here.
Yay. Well, we're excited to have you. And excited. Is this our first time having someone in PR? It might be. So that will be really fun. I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell us more about what you do, and also share a little bit of your background, which I was like, great, this is such a good fit for our community as we
Yes.
talk about health.
Definitely 100%. So I'm the CEO of Kloss Creatives. We are a PR and social media firm rooted in the principles of journalism. So what that means is we really focus on educating audiences, positioning companies as thought leaders in their industries, and telling a great story. And my background is actually in journalism. So that's where that comes from. I started off at the very beginning as a beat reporter for newspapers, reporting on local news. Worked up into the magazine industry, and eventually was a food and nutrition editor for magazines like Good Housekeeping, Women's Day, Redbook, Prevention, and spent many years doing that in New York City. So transitioning over to PR and social media eventually was a whole lot of fun because it was kind of like flipping the script and being on the other side of things, but bringing that perspective with.
Yes. Did you feel like you learned a lot from editing a bunch of nutrition articles?
Yes, 100%. I feel like it was such a great experience because you hear a lot about the latest nutrition trends and
Yeah.
the latest news and all of that. But when you're an editor and you're really digging into the science and you're looking at the studies and what journals those studies are coming from and how big they were and who were they potentially funded by, it makes a big difference in your perspective and how not only can you educate a reader on those topics, but how you can apply that to your own life.
Oh, so much so. Oh gosh, that sounds like, I mean, I'm currently in school, I'm getting my doctorate, but that sounds very much of like what we do of just nitpicking through studies and understanding it as a whole in and of itself, which is great. But what led you to the change of doing that and then going into PR? What was behind that?
Yeah, so it kind of came about very naturally. I transitioned from doing editorial work in the magazine world to working in content operations for
Okay.
Scholastic, which was a little bit more of a marketing industry, and then also did marketing for AT&T. But during the pandemic, like so many other corporations, we were partially furloughed, which just meant, going in one less day a week. That came with a little bit of an income dip too for the time being. So I was like, I have a little extra time. I'm going to start taking on my own clients. And I had noticed that a lot of people were asking for help with things like PR and marketing and social media. So I started saying yes, and brought on a few clients, and then that snowballed into the incredible team we have today, which is a team of about 9, and located all across the country, clients in all different types of industries. And it just came from wanting to help and apply skills to people who are looking to scale and grow their companies.
Oh, I love that. I feel like you have an in too, because now you're like on the other side. Like I'm sure you got pitched yourself just
Oh, so
being
many.
the editor. So like you literally have been on both sides of the spectrum.
Yes, it's so I still do some journalism work to this day because I just love it. I love
Ah,
editorial. So I still receive pitches, and it's really interesting to see what those pitches say and how they're framed and how they might be similar to some of our pitches or different. But yeah, I think that there were so many misunderstandings between the industries. When I was starting off, a lot of my friends were in PR too, and we would talk like, journalists say this, PR professionals say this. What are the misunderstandings? So it is really interesting
oh.
to kind of close that gap a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome. And then were you into health, but even before you were an editor, like where did not, it doesn't always have to be a full passion, but like an interest in health, when did that come into play in your life?
Definitely. I think that I've always been really interested in just great food. I've always loved,
Yeah.
cooking up something that feels delicious and makes you feel great afterwards, that just energizes you through the day. And I was always interested in trying new things, new, juices or whatever it might be that come on the market, just,
Yeah.
out of curiosity. And then my first full-time editorial role in the magazine world was actually as an assistant health editor at Reader's Digest. So that really
Okay.
got me into digesting studies and putting them into plain language for a larger audience. So that was such a great, crash course in learning how to read scientific studies and how to
Wow.
speak to experts and interview them and use that information in a very applicable day-to-day way.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So you've always kind of had an interest for it. Love. So what does your morning routine look like? What are you drinking? What are you eating? What are you doing, to set your day up for success? Because I know that you're probably handling employees, clients,
Mhm.
if you take any of yourself. I mean, there's a lot to do in the day. And I know that obviously why I started this podcast is to understand how you're alive and here right now, or you're not frazzled and all over the place. So tell us more about your morning routine.
Definitely. And I think routines are so important for setting yourself up, of course, for a successful day, but as your company grows, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, it becomes just as important to be a certain way as it is to do all the things. So,
Yes.
when you start off, you're just like, I need to check all of these boxes and do all of the things. But as you're leading a team and developing your business, you need to be level-headed. You need to be calm. You need to be focused. And that comes from these routines that set you up for a great day. So I like to wake up, and the first thing I do is take care of our furry friends and animals that we have. We have a 6-month-old puppy and a rabbit named Fritz. So
Oh,
Pebbles and Fritz, they're best friends. But I like to spend a little time in the morning just with them. Like, in addition to feeding and taking care of them, just spending some time cuddling with a bunny or with a puppy. It's the best way to start a day. And I feel like it just instantly calms you and grounds you.
so true. There has to be a study on that.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes I'll share a few pieces of lettuce or a berry with Fritz, and we'll hang out and I'll drink my coffee. So I love starting my day with that. Also, something that I started trying a few months ago that I personally find helpful is the EFT tapping. And I know that the studies and research
Oh,
behind that are still maybe a little inconclusive, but for me personally, like it's just a nice way to start the day. You just start the day by doing a little tapping on the meridians in your body and saying
oh,
mantras about what you want to focus on that day. And regardless of what the science is behind it, even though I think it has been shown in studies to help calm and help, put people in a good mindset, for me at this point, I do find that helpful. And it's
yeah.
just a way to start the day. So I do that, a little bit of journaling. And then I also, try sneaking in before the day starts, like a quick workout, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes, going for a run
Nice.
outside or doing a YouTube video. I think having that movement first thing in the morning
Yeah.
sets the tone so well. So, when
Yeah.
there's time to do that, I really try and prioritize that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I just shared. I was like, oh, I used to do like morning walks all the time and definitely fell off my to-do list when we were renovating the house that we're in, but we were renovating and then it was also like winter. But when we moved in January, I was like, oh my gosh, it's July. And I realized like I never got back into that. And I'm like, I need to,
Exactly.
because it was so helpful on starting the day off on the right note. And usually I'm like listening to something like a podcast, something that's kind of getting me excited and like, I don't
Yes,
know, just in the mood, in the
definitely.
mood
And
to
just
work.
getting it done first thing in the day too. And then you're like, I already
Yeah.
accomplished something first thing in the morning.
Yes, for sure. What about food? Are you eating anything for breakfast or do you skip
Yeah.
breakfast or
Yeah, so I definitely I'm usually like hungry right away when I wake up. So I
it's a
like
good sign?
diving. Yes, I just love diving into a good breakfast. I keep it simple, but maybe it's either oatmeal or yogurt, so a base with like walnuts and dried cranberries. Just something that is easy to throw together. I always have coffee, and then I actually write myself a reminder in my planner to hydrate too, because hydration is something that I tend to forget about, and that I need that item in my list to check it off and say, I've done this.
Yes,
And that always starts the day on a better note too, is just hydrating right away alongside the breakfast. So a lot of
it's
times
so true.
Yeah. I just kind of start the day with some of that journaling, some of that mindset work, and eat breakfast at the same time. And then get
Yes.
after that.
Yes, yes. No, I agree. I have always been like not the best like drinker of water. But I feel like the more you get into habit of it, I do find it gets easier because I feel like I
Right.
started craving it more
Yeah, you
when
get
I finally like,
almost.
yeah, you kind of force
Yeah.
yourself. But then I'm like, I realize when I don't now, which I never used to before. I
Right.
remember, gosh, going like all day. That's so bad. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I did some type of liquid, but never
Like
just like water.
right. I know it almost
So
teaches you what it feels like to be thirsty, which is kind of
yes.
funny. We don't realize that on a day-to-day basis,
Yes.
but yeah.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, currently same thing. I've been loving like eating and I use my digital planner on my iPad, but it's so great just to like do that and eat breakfast at the same time versus like I prefer doing that kind of brain dumping my morning. Sometimes I'll like do some work on my laptop while I'm eating, but I don't know. I need to be organized. So I'm with you. I think
Right.
just kind of killing two birds with one stone there, just as I'm sitting and eating and
Exactly.
just like brain dump and be like, okay, what are my actual objectives for today? And I don't get sidetracked.
Exactly, just planning out the day. And I think that's so nice to do too, even if you're multitasking. It is true. Like if you do all of these things one at a time, it does turn into a long morning
Yes.
routine. And then you have to, yeah. So I get that side of it too.
Yes. Are you a like a physical planner person or are you digital? I'm always so curious.
Yeah, so I put the really big items in my physical planner. So I'll have like morning, midday, afternoon, and I'll put a few key things that I need to get done within each of those blocks. But then on my computer, I have the longer list of all of the nitty
Nice.
gritty tasks that need to get done. Just because there's a little more room there, and you can cross them out and delete them or change them as needed. So a combination of both.
Nice, nice. And what about your nighttime routine? What does that look like? Are you doing anything special or are you keeping it low key?
Yeah, so at night I like of course spending time with my husband. We're both winding down from the day, catching up on everything that happened. Making dinner. For supper, I like to kind of throw things in the oven and have a little more of a baked meal. So whether it's roasted potatoes or baked fish, just something simple that you can put all on a pan
One sheet
and
pan's the jam.
yes, the sheet pans, the best. Just throw everything on there, and again, spending time with our puppy and rabbit a little bit more in the evening. I always end the day with them too, and maybe going on a longer walk with our puppy through the park. Really anything at night. I try to listen a little bit more to what I feel like I need after the day.
Yeah.
So while the mornings are very structured, the evenings are kind of like, okay, what do
Mm,
we need based on what today was like? If
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a time like a time where you're like, okay, this is when I end work. I don't do work further. Or are you also flexible of if it's a busy day of like, no, I need to work a little bit later, or what does that boundary look like?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that it does depend on the day. I try not to go too far past 7 or 8 o'clock, but of course, sometimes it does call for that. And then other days you get done a little bit earlier. So it also
Yeah.
depends on, what's on the agenda that day, how many meetings there
Yeah.
are, and what actually needs to be done on a deadline. But I try and remind myself that not everything needs to be done right away, that you can always come back to the table with a fresh mind and a fresh perspective and take it from there the next day.
That's so funny. I'm always, yeah, I get that completely, but for some reason I'm just like, no, it's got to be done or I'm just going to keep putting it off. So whenever something's on like my to-do list, I'm like, it's on my to-do list. I will
I
not
just want to
sleep
get it
until the
done.
to-do list is done. But then I have to be really realistic when I make the to-do list of what is realistic of getting done today.
Yes, 100%. I know it's such a balancing act.
Yes. So you shared a little bit about breakfast and dinner. What about the middle of the day? Are you grabbing grab and go out to eat or keeping it simple as well at home?
Yeah, so I do, I work from home, and usually that involves making something probably a little faster. I'm a big fan of, maybe taking a salad base, but beefing it up with like, lots of beans and lentils and nuts and making it a little hearty so you don't have to feel hungry after an
Yeah.
hour or two. I also love sauteing like some tempeh and maybe some broccoli on the side.
Okay.
So, that's another go-to of mine. Or even sometimes like, when I'm crunched for time, some of those like veggie chili cans from, I think, Amy's, it's just easy to pour and
Yes.
heat up. So, I think that lunch is probably the most variable because it's like, okay, what do we have time for? What can we
Yeah.
find in the fridge? And it's sometimes a lot of times also, to be perfectly honest, it's leftovers from
Yeah.
baking the night before.
Yeah. That is my preferred. So every time if
Yeah.
I don't know, I make something for dinner, my family's just extra hungry or something, and I don't have leftovers, I'm like, dang it. Cause
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
that is usually what I depend on. So yeah, I usually have like easy go-tos like tuna salad or something like that.
Yum.
Just to make it quick, but still it is hard because it is like the middle of the day. But you also live in like San Diego, right? So like, I'm sure you also have like really great restaurants around you, which is awesome.
We do. We live in a part of San Diego that's very walkable, which is fantastic. So we can
Nice.
walk to restaurants, we can walk to a smoothie spot. It's great to grab and go if you need to.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I know you mentioned exercise in the morning, but what is your preferred exercise? It sounds
Yeah.
like you walk a lot, which is great.
Yes, walking is lovely. I love a good run. In the mornings, even though I've done races, I'm not someone to like time myself and be super
Yeah.
stressed out about how fast or how far I'm going. I just like to spend time running in the morning and use that opportunity to get some fresh air. But I'll also integrate some HIIT workouts a few
Mm.
times a week, and then more gentle exercises for mornings where you're like, I just want to ease into it. I'm going to do some yoga today, or even if it's a day where you're extra tired and you're like, I'm just going to stretch this morning. I'm such a proponent of
Yes.
something is something, and whatever you can do, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be an
Yeah.
the gym. It's just being active in some way that works with your body for that day.
Yes, 100%. And I especially think that's important for women, especially because like cycles and like, our periods and where that's at, that can like impact.
Mhm.
And so I always try to
I
like
always love
go hard, like right before my period. Like, I think I can do it. And then like in the midst of it, I'm like, yeah, never mind. It's just going to be like a weight
right.
day, but it's just going to be lighter weights. I can't like
Yes.
lift my heaviest today. I always try. But my body
Right.
always shuts me down and it humbles me real quick.
Yeah, the body's
So,
like, I know best. We're gonna take it easier today.
yeah. Yes. So I'm very much like that with exercise. I'm really leaning in on like, where am I at my cycle? How am I feeling? Did I get enough rest last night? All of those factors kind of depend on like what I decide to do for the day for sure.
Love that. Yeah.
Have you ever had like a season of your life where you just felt like it was really hard to stay on track? Like you had maybe a lot going on, a huge move, I don't know, a huge breakup. I mean, whatever it could be.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like you were able to overcome and still take care of yourself through a
Mhm.
harder or busier season?
Yeah, that's such a great question because I feel like a lot of times those seasons can catch you off guard, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I didn't plan ahead for this. I think that there was a time in which our company was growing very quickly and I was still working in corporate. So my days were ending up
Mm,
being very long because I would work my corporate job and then spend
wow.
6 hours on my company. And it was extremely long. And during that time, I was like, I have to figure out how to be healthy too, so that I can show up in the best way possible for both of these roles. And now I'm in my company full time. So there's a little more flexibility in that scheduling. But at the time, I know this seems a little extravagant to some, but what I found really helpful was just putting a walking pad under my desk and having like a stand
Yes.
desk so I can be moving. Especially when you're in a lot of meetings and you're just listening and soaking in information. Being able to walk and work at a desk, I think just helped a lot with
Yes.
focus and energy too. And taking, even if it was 10 minutes, sometimes you feel again like it's all or nothing, like, okay, I either have to be done for the day or I have to go hard until 9 p.m. But taking 10 minutes to go sit on the deck and soak in some sunshine and just breathe and not look at your phone, not doing anything else. Those moments made a big difference. And then you can come back to the table feeling refreshed, even if it's just that mini break.
Yeah. Mini breaks are, oh my gosh, that definitely reminds me of a time where, I don't know, I was really anxious that day. Maybe I had a lot going on. Whenever I'm anxious, it's not anything that's like, oh, it's this. It's usually like I have a
Right.
long to-do list in the back of my head. So it's
Yes.
just sitting there. And I remember, it's funny because I'm anxious on my list. And it's almost like a bad circle that you're like just spinning around. And
Yes.
I remember pulling out my meditation app. I think it was only like 2 minutes. It wasn't even long. And it was just like, I was just focusing on breathing. And I realized after that, I was like, wow, I'm so relaxed now. And I'm not feeling as anxious. I just needed that break, but I kept trying to push through. So like, oh, I still much to do. I don't have time for even like a 2-minute break. I have so much I got to get done today.
Right.
And that was really exactly like what you said, just something so small, but it actually changed the rest of my day. And it's like putting that priority of like, yeah, you have a lot to do, but everyone can take 2 minutes. If you're feeling like anxious and like overwhelmed, like take 2 minutes. It's just 2 minutes. It's totally possible.
And it'll make the results once you come back so much better too.
Yes.
In those 2 minutes, it seems like it would go by so fast, but when you're meditating, it feels like more of a breather than 2 minutes.
Yes.
It feels like this amazing moment of calm. So
yes. Yes. And even though everything that I know, it's still, I don't know, maybe it's just like the business owner and people, and like naturally we have go-getter personalities. But it was even hard for me to be like, no, I can stop for a couple minutes.
Exactly. It's okay. I get myself permission to.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the business owner side, have you found, and you're in PR too, so you're very aware of like resources and podcasts and books and all that. What have been some of your favorite like self-development, entrepreneurship, business podcasts, books that you loved, still turn to this day, or just, I don't know, made a big difference in
Definitely. Yeah. One book that was actually recommended to me recently, it's called Do Less. And it's actually, it kind of ties into a lot of what we're talking about. She covers a lot in that book, but I've been listening to it on Audible and I found it very helpful in terms of just getting a sense of, okay, doing more does not mean that you're going to get to where you're going faster. It's about making the right decisions and the best decisions and how to show up in order to do that. And a lot of what she talks about can be applied to parenthood or running your own company. These are things that cross over all of the sectors of your life. So I've been finding that book incredibly insightful, and especially if you feel like you can never stop without feeling bad about stopping, then I think that's a very, very helpful resource.
Yes. I love that. What about, that reminded me of a book, but it slipped my mind. Maybe it'll come back to me. What about podcasts? What are some of your favorites? Even if they're fun podcasts, because we're down for fun podcasts too.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I, to be perfectly honest, I typically search for podcasts based on a topic that I'm trying to learn about. So I listen to a lot of different ones. I don't have, a ton that I'm always like, okay, I'm going to have like the next episode ready to go, but I do like searching by topic. So if I'm looking for something in terms of, like social media, I think the Social Media CEO, she's a great resource and has a lot of great information. I was recently just talking to Brenda Meller, who has a great LinkedIn podcast too, if you're looking to grow your presence on LinkedIn. So those are a few that come to mind. But yeah, I'm a little bit of a jumper when it comes to podcasts and switching between them.
I'm about to say, honestly, I don't think I've ever had someone like that's like the initial. I think people do that and they find podcasts and then they have their like set list. But naturally I've never heard like, oh, I really only listen to podcasts like based on topics. I'm like, it's such a good idea. I mean, honestly, you take what you need and like it's direct. And you don't have a lot of the fluff, I guess. But that's really cool. I love that. I go through seasons with podcasts. Sometimes I'm just on it. Sometimes I'm not. And I haven't listened in like 5 months. So it kind of depends. I'm like you. I love Audible. I definitely do that. And a lot of the more business books I like listening. And then I actually like holding like nonfiction books to give my eyes a break from the screen.
Oh, nice. Yes, just being able to curl up with a real book is
Yes.
amazing too.
Yes. Especially, I'm sure you too, like always on a screen, always with technology, which I love. But yeah, I found that I was like, I need more things non-screen.
Yes, 100%. Oh, I know. Or even just like going to the library and getting books from the library and having that feeling, that nostalgic feeling of a library book in your hand is the best.
The library is the best. I'm curious, what are some of your, like, do you have any healthcare providers that you see regularly? So things like a therapist, like, oh, that's a must. Do you have any non-negotiables for healthcare providers for you?
Oh, that's a really great question. I think that there are a lot of great healthcare providers that deserve a spot in your routine. For me, I do go to kind of like the typical go-to like preventive checkup providers, but I guess one that might be just a little bit different, that's a non-negotiable for me, is a dermatologist, because
Ooh.
I think skin checks are so important, and making sure that any changes on your skin are being monitored. And that's something that I've had to have checked out and kind of addressed in the past. And so I learned
Nice.
early in my 20s that dermatologists aren't just for making your skin look good. It's actually a very important part of your overall health, is
Yeah.
getting skin checks and making sure that everything is good on that front.
Yeah. I feel like that's actually a movement that's becoming more popular. I think just blame social media and just us being more educated, I guess, and having knowledge, but skin checks and like skin cancers and like, that was not a thing when I was growing up. That was more of like
Right.
tanning beds
It's
were
all
like
about
the cool
tanning,
thing.
which
Just
means we
those
definitely
things.
need to go to the dermatologist.
Yes. So now I feel
Yeah.
like it is becoming way more proactive and knowledgeable in that for sure. Do you have any, not technically healthcare providers, any other like personal trainers, anything else that you rely on for a resource?
Yeah. In the past, I have worked with personal trainers, which has been fantastic. I always think that registered dietitians and nutritionists are
Yeah.
always an amazing, amazing resource too. I think any other types of not at the moment, but I will say I'm in a little bit
Nice.
of a transition, because I
Oh,
recently moved to San Diego from New York City. So I'm kind of in a transition
oh
of
my
like
gosh.
refreshing all of my providers and seeing who I want to see on a regular basis, and
Nice.
making all of those updates. So that's always an interesting part of being in a new city, is figuring out who those providers will be and
Yes.
who you align with.
Oh my gosh, yes. How has that transition been? I mean, that's
Yeah.
maybe there's similar culture, but I doubt it. Like New York is just, whew, that's like balls to the wall. You're
Yeah,
going. And I feel like probably San Diego is a little bit more chiller, I would assume, than New
definitely.
York. So has that changed anything health-wise for you, like mental health, physical health? Obviously New York cold year round?
Yeah,
Or just
it gets chilly in the winter and hot in the summer, so you
okay, it
definitely
does get
are
hot.
used season there.
Okay.
Yeah, but it really was a change, because we went from living a few blocks from Times Square and the hustle and bustle
Oh
of
my
it all,
gosh.
to being, 15 minutes from the beach here. And it's very,
Wow.
it's kind of like this totally different calming energy. And I think that both cities have so much to offer and are so wonderful,
Mhm.
that this has been just a great change of scenery for us. As a next step, I spent 10 years in New York City. My husband's a native New Yorker, so
Okay.
a big change on his end too, but it's been wonderful. And I think that it definitely encourages you to look for that balance where you can you wrap up your work week as needed during the week, and then go and enjoy the beautiful outdoors, because here it's kind of like, oh, you're so close to the ocean and hiking, like on the weekends you want to be outside and
Yeah.
enjoying that. So it definitely is great motivation to find that balance where you can actually do that.
Well, I can see where you get your walking from being in New
Yes.
York.
Oh,
So you
definitely.
walked everywhere.
I'll just walk to dinner.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can only imagine like the difference, but as we are recording, we're going to LA tomorrow, and I'm so excited because the weather just looks so great for hiking because it's so hot here in the summer in Austin. It's really great in the fall and spring and winter, but man, it's just, yes, it's like you don't go outside. That's the thing, is like when we
Yes.
moved to Texas, well, we're from Florida, so we're kind of used to it.
Right.
But when we moved, we were in the summer, and we remember like moving in, being like, where is everyone? Like there's
Yeah.
no kids, like no one's
Outside.
outside. Yes. And we're like, where's
Yeah.
everyone? And then fall comes and then everyone's like outside. I'm like, oh, so there are kids that live here.
Right. It's kind of like the opposite, I'm sure. Everyone goes outside during the fall and winter.
Yes.
Everywhere else, it's the opposite. Yeah.
Yes,
I
exactly.
completely understand that. It's like when it's that hot, you just have to stay cool and enjoy
Yes.
the
Yeah. So it's like, if you're outside, you're definitely near water, or you're just doing like sports like indoors because it's so hot. So I love that. Well, I'm excited to see you in your new space and like just flourish. And I'm curious, has there been any new like things that you've added into like your health routines or habits since you've moved that you never did before?
Yeah. So, learning about the EFT tapping was actually something I learned about
Okay.
here. So that was new and
Oh,
interesting.
okay.
I have been trying to, get more into, so I used to meditate a lot, and then we went through this move, and it was kind of like things got busy, and that's when you need meditation the most, I know, but trying to get back on track with that, after moving across the country, because that's just so helpful. And, yeah, I think that just spending more time outside, because in our new environment, you can really step outside and feel relaxed and be around nature
Yes.
and enjoy trees and grass. So I think that we're definitely exposed to a lot more nature here, which is a great part of my self-care routine too, is just, taking that time to be outside.
I love that. Well, amazing. We're going to finish off with a lightning round. So it's just an either
Amazing.
or question. Let me pull it up, my list. But in the meantime, why don't you share with our listeners, where can we find you? What can you do? Who do you help?
Definitely. So you can find us at klosscreatives.com. That's KLOSS Creatives. And we're offering 4 major services at the moment: monthly PR management, monthly social media management, that's Facebook and Instagram, with an optional LinkedIn add-on. And then 2 new offerings we just added that I'm really excited about. One is a 1-day full media training intensive, where we train you on how to do print interviews, broadcast interviews. We send you home with 3 media lists of leads that you can get started with, pitches that you can get started with. So it's an everything included media training. And that's really great if you're wanting to dive into PR, but not, maybe ready for the monthly management quite yet, or you want to do it internally first. And then also a branding intensive if you're looking to update your brand a bit. So that's the newest with us.
I love it. Amazing. And then, okay, let's get started. So just because it's California, would you rather be beach or mountain?
Ooh, I'm beach personally.
Okay. Bikini or one piece?
Oh, at the moment bikini, but I would love to explore one pieces more.
I feel like everyone does go through that like flow. I used to be
Right.
like a hardcore bikini, and now I'm like, I love one pieces. So it's
There's
funny
so
that
many
like
cute
you kind
options.
of ebb and flow.
Yeah.
What about burgers or tacos?
Ooh, tacos for me.
Oh, then you gotta come to Austin.
Yes.
Cold weather or warm weather?
Warm weather.
Okay. And then a romper or a dress?
Ooh, I would say a dress probably.
Not feeling naked.
Yeah,
Going to the bathroom.
exactly. Nice and easy and simple.
Well, I
Great
love
question.
it. Thank you for coming on and hanging out. It was so fun getting to know you.
Thank
Thanks
you so
for
much.
coming on.
Of course, this was such a great time. Thanks for having me.